There's a certain, or rather, specific weight that comes with the words Ghost of Sparta. Even outside of the game, even outside of the mythology, it really carries this feeling of something unstoppable that's already been through too much to ever be normal again. Kratos is not just a character, we know that, and a character in gaming history anymore. He's an era. And in fact, now with the announcement and growing discussions around the God of War Ghost of Sparta Remake, that entire handhold chapter of the story is now finally back in the spotlight in a way fans didn't even expect this soon. First of all, the reaction was pretty varied. A mix of disbelief, hype, and a little bit of that, wait, they actually doing this? Well, here's the thing. For a long time, Ghost of Sparta lived in that awkward little space between major console entries. Released originally on PSP, it was always considered as one of the most emotional and story-heavy parts of Kratos' Greek saga, but also one of the most overlooked simply because of the hardware it was tied to. Even though it expanded his backstory in really powerful ways, it never really had the same presentation scale as the main, of course, trilogy. Now, well, apparently that's changing now. According to recent announcements tied to the broader Greek era revival, Sony and Santa Monica Studio are revisiting the entire foundation of Kratos' original journey in fact, and Ghost of Sparta is being positioned as a fully reimagined experience rather than a simple port or visual upgrade. And that distinction matters more than people actually realize right now, because this is not about making a old game looking sharper now, or just that. It's about rebuilding a piece of Kratos' identity for a modern audience that mostly knows him from the Norse era. See, the version of Kratos in Ghost of Sparta is different. It's still violent, still broken, still carrying rage like a second heartbeat, but there's something more personal about this journey in that specific game. It focuses heavily on his past, his family, and, the parts of his story that actually tries to bury under centuries of just destruction. Even in its original form, it had a stronger emotional focus than most action games of its time. And that's exactly why a remake makes so much sense right now, because modern God of War has already proven that players respond deeply to character-driven storytelling. The shift that happened in 2018 changed how people see Kratos completely. He's no longer just a force of rage, he's a father. He's a father, a survivor, someone constantly fighting against what he used to be. So bringing Ghost of Sparta into that modern presentation style opens up something very interesting, which is, it creates a bridge between those two versions of Kratos, the mythological destroyer and the restrained emotional figure we know now. And that contrast is where the remake could become really powerful. Here's the thing, from what has actually been discussed in early announcements, the remake is still in very early development, which means the studio is taking its time rather than just rushing it out of a quick nostalgia release. That alone suggests a bigger vision is being considered, likely something closer in scope to the recent Greek trilogy remake approach rather than a standalone remaster. And if that's true, then this version of Ghost of Sparta will not just be updated visually, it'll likely be rebuilt mechanically and structurally to just match modern God of War design philosophies right now. That means one major shift immediately stands out: the camera. Well, the original game used to be, classic fixed angle style of early God of War titles. It was fast, cinematic, but very different from the over-the-shoulder perspective used in the 2018 and the Ragnarok era. A remake almost certainly brings it in line with the modern style. That alone changes many things. Combat becomes heavier, more grounded, more intimate. Every strike feels closer, every enemy encounter feels more personal. Instead of just watching Kratos from a distance, you're now inside the space with him. That changes just how the story lands emotionally even. Because Ghost of Sparta is not just about battles, it's about what those battles really mean. Here's the thing, the original game already had a pretty strong combat foundation for its time, including combos, magic abilities, and quick-time finishes, but modern God of War design would allow those systems to evolve into something deeper. Weapons could feel more weighty, more customizable, enemy encounters could become something deeper, or more tactical. Boss fights could be extended into multi-phase cinematic sequences instead of just short arena encounters. But even with all of that modernization, the biggest question fans are asking right now is, actually pretty simple. How far will they change this game? Because there's always a balance issue with remakes like this one. You push too far and you lose the identity of the original, which is just awful. Say too faithful and it feels outdated or just boring. And Ghost of Sparta sits in a particularly delicate position because it was originally designed as a handheld experience, which means pacing, structure, and encounter design were built around shorter play sessions and more compact environments. And translating that into a full AAA modern console experience will require careful expansion, not just visual upgrades. That's where the opportunity really lies. If done right, this remake could turn Ghost of Sparta into something that feels like a missing chapter of the mainline series, rather than a side story. But also one of the most overlooked simply because of the hardware it was tied to. Even though it expanded his backstory in really powerful ways, it never really had the same presentation scale as the main, of course, trilogy. Now, well, apparently that's changing now. According to recent announcements tied to the broader Greek-era revival, Sony and Santa Monica Studio are revisiting the entire foundation of Kratos' original journey, in fact. And Ghost of Sparta is being positioned as a fully reimagined experience rather than a simple port or visual upgrade. And that distinction matters more than people actually realize right now, because this is not about making a old game looking sharper now, or just that. It's about rebuilding a piece of Kratos' identity for a modern audience that mostly knows him from the Norse era. A fully realized piece of Kratos' origin that finally gets the scale it always deserved. And with the broader Greek saga already confirmed to be getting a full remake treatment as well, this project feels like part of a much larger return to where it all began. That's right, that's what makes this moment so interesting right now for fans. It's not just nostalgia, it's reconstruction, rebuilding an entire era of storytelling with modern tools, modern performance, and modern expectations. And in that sense, Ghost of Sparta might actually end up being one of the most emotionally important entries in the entire franchise reboot. Because this is Kratos before everything became legend. Before Olympus fell, before Norse mythology even entered the picture, this is Kratos still chasing answer, still trapped between what he is and what he was forced to become. And of course, when you bring that story into a modern cinematic format with today's level of storytelling and presentation, it doesn't just become a remake, it'll become a reminder of how far the Ghost of Sparta has actually come, and how much of the story still lives in the shadows, waiting to be told again.